Hello, welcome to the Michael Rains channel. I'm Michael Rains. In this video I'd like to talk about a disturbing trend that I'm seeing that doesn't necessarily have to do with the economy. It has an impact on the economy, but it also has an impact on society. I'm talking about in the United States. So a while ago, California, specifically San Francisco, passed a law to decriminalize human waste in the streets. And the sad thing is with California is California thinks that they're and they are, they think they're the leader of legislation. So they do something and all these other cities and states are just going to follow what they do, and we're seeing that. We see it in Seattle and we see it in Denver, and probably more to come. Now what's interesting, if you look back in history, you look at in ancient Egypt, they didn't know about dental hygiene and they ate a lot of grains, and you had these pharaohs dying of a lot of people died of just abscessed tooth, but they didn't know what to do to prevent this. And then in the Roman Empire, you hear of people drinking from lead glasses and all the unsanitary things that happened, and they didn't have the microscope. They didn't know a lot of these things. Same with ancient bathhouses in like ancient Greece and stuff. There was no microscope. There was no scientific research that let them know that it was an invisible threat. So they're doing these things. They didn't know about metal poisoning from like lead and things of that nature. So we can kind of look and say, man, that really probably hurt the empire. I wonder what they would have done. As I always kind of like to kick around the idea. I wonder what they'd done if they had the microscope, or they were able to avoid a lot of that, disease unnecessarily. When we come to the U.S. and we come to modern times, and we know, this is the sad thing about this, we know the dangers of doing this. And you read about these laws that have been passed, and the best I gather is that they're doing it to help the homeless. I want to just propose a question. How does it help the homeless if they have to live in their own human waste? How is that a beneficial thing who does this help? Does this help the kids that play in the street? Does this help pedestrians? Does this even help the homeless that live in this? My answer is no. And I think it's really reckless legislation, and it's concerning because we have the knowledge where this is all unnecessary. And it's troubling to think that these governments get together in these states and they pass something like this, and it flies and it spreads to other places. And it's something I want to keep an eye on, because I want to see if we're getting really silly with government regulation and where we're heading, and to see how ridiculous some of these things are going to get and how it's going to impact on society. You can only imagine in 10 or 15 years when 20, 30 more major cities in the U.S. adopt this rule. You can only imagine the trouble that it can bring. Already the free market has had to come in, and they've made maps to tell tourists, to tell folks where to avoid, where you're going to get the highest concentration of this human waste. And it's a sad thing that folks pay money and they rely on one of the things they rely on the government to do, and the government blatantly is not doing it. It's not keeping a clean, safe environment for human life. It's a very sad thing. So, it's something that's concerning. It's something we should keep our eye on to see how outrageous these governments are going to get on the state level. And by the off chance, if you're a politician that's involved in this and you happen to be watching this video, you should be ashamed of yourself to pass something like this. Typically in government, we're used to the incompetence. We're used to the bureaucracy and the red tape. We're used to the financial waste. All these negative things with the government. Like we get that. but to purposely damage the communities that you were elected to improve, or at least toe the line and keep them the same. And you're gonna accept money from the taxpayers and do this to your own community? You should be ashamed. You should give the money back. You should resign. And you should be hopeful that the history books don't record your name for what you've done to this country. This is terrible. And then you've got you got cities like Seattle that don't want to clean up the human waste when it's occurring. So you're literally rubbing our nose in it. Give the money back and resign. I'm not impressed.